Our Washington reporter Kevin Fry is with us in New York City this morning to bring us some perspective on these key races. We, in particular in this Nadler-Maloney race, we have these two veterans, both heads of powerful committees, and only one will survive this.
If one survives at all.
That's true.
There is this chance that also you could see the outsider, essentially Suraj Patel, come in and win. I mean, look, this is a match of the titans between these two. And quite frankly, the fact that you have two chairpersons heading off against each other, when I spoke to lawmakers on the Hill from our delegation about this a couple months ago, or a month or so ago, when this was all kind of coming into fruition, there was expressions of sadness, of heartfelt frustration that they have to watch their two colleagues go head to head like this. And you've noticed that not a lot of people are weighing in on this. They don't want to pick a side. And we talked to Carolyn Maloney yesterday, who had been very tentative about criticizing her longtime colleague, Jerry Nadler.
Now Maloney is speaking more directly about Nadler and about a boys' club that exists in Washington.
When you work in Congress and pass bills, which I do, you are very careful to keep relationships, because you need to get that fragile flower of consensus over 215 votes. So we're very cautious how we treat each other. And endorsing against colleagues is not an accepted practice, because you need that vote.
Kevin, give us some context on where the balance of power stands and how these New York races fit into the overall Washington picture.
Well, I'm going to get to that in a moment, but just if you listen to the last line of that is nothing less than a very, well, it's not even subtle dig at Senator Schumer, of course, just right in on this race. And picked Jerry Nadler over her. That's part of the reason they're talking about the boys' club, and the fact that he got involved is a bit shocking, since he's really the only member of the delegation so far that has entered into this contest. When it comes to the balance of power in Washington, look, there is a good chance that even if one of these House chairpersons survives this primary, they could end up in a Washington where they're no longer in that powerful position, because the Republicans could take over. They'd be ranking member, and quite frankly, when you're out of the majority in the House, you don't have a lot of power to do much of anything.
Let's talk about the unsurprising election result in Wyoming. Liz Cheney knew she was going down. She was polling behind. It was just clear on the streets in Wyoming that she was going to be punished for not supporting the election challenge.
Yeah, I mean, look, this is not a surprise. There was a lot of people watching this race because of the fact that she is this prominent Republican, a big name, obviously, in terms of a legacy within Washington, and the fact that she is, of course, the top Republican on this January 6th investigatory panel. And one could argue the most outspoken Trump defector is not even the right word, an antagonist, if you will, on Capitol Hill, perhaps the second in command in that position being Adam Kinzinger of Illinois. The fact that she went down like this, a lot of people reading into this to suggest that, look, that the MAGA revolution of the Republican Party has kind of coalesced and taken form. We have seen a lot of Trump's candidates succeed. We have seen some other candidates that Trump has backed not succeed in this primary season, but in some cases, these Trump-backed candidates are presenting some difficulties for Republicans heading into the actual elections themselves, like in Pennsylvania, for example, the Senate race there.
So I want to ask you just quickly about that at the end here. You have your on-the-record conversations with politicians in Washington. You have the pre- and post-conversations, either with them off the record or with their staffers. It always seems like there's this undercurrent of a lot of them don't like the way that Trump has taken control of the party, but on the record, if you go on the record like Liz Cheney did, you're punished for it.
Yeah, you don't want to cross him publicly, and it's kind of this weird balancing act of constant fear. I used to cover the North Carolina delegation, and I distinctly remember talking to one Republican who just said outright to me before we went on the record, like, I wish he would just shut up.
Right.
And that's kind of where they come from.
Kevin, thanks for coming in this morning.
Good to be here.
7:37, here's Shannon. Have you seen any Broadway shows while you're in New York?
I was thinking about it, but I haven't. But I did recently see The Music Man, which I loved, but that's also a show that I've loved since I was a kid.
So I saw MJ, the musical, last night.
Great show.
Yeah. I thought...
Oh, you didn't like it?
No, it wasn't bad.
That's not a ringing endorsement.
I felt like I was at a Michael Jackson concert. I
No,
guess that's why I liked it.
Yes, the second half of it is very much like a very
Right.
well done Michael Jackson concert. I thought Tina Turner was better if you're in the category of recent jukebox
Comparing.
musicals. Okay, but that's not my point. My point was that
Doing the Pat Kiernan review.
no, I was so impressed with the entrepreneurial nature of the pedicab drivers. Because you come out of the big Michael Jackson concert moment at the end of MJ the Musical,
Yeah.
and they're lined up there with the speakers on their pedicabs with like exactly the same music you just listened to, and it just feels like I want to continue the party and get on to the pedicab and continue to listen to Michael Jackson music.
Well, it doesn't seem like anyone really felt so compelled to do that.
walking
a lot of people walking by there. I get what you're saying, though.
No, well, I mean, they must have. I mean, that guy's waving them in.
They're being.
They must have eventually got some customers.
So did you take a ride?
No, I went immediately home. It was way past my bedtime already.
But they're on TV. What could be better than that?
In the papers.